statements from Jesus. I showed you how we do it from the Prophet.
No, because you said I savage. Hold on just a second. Can you right now tell us about the like this transmission of your Quran? How did it come into existence? You can't.
Okay, so what?
Can you?
What you're doing now?
Right now.
Was that what we
That's exactly what we're doing.
Well,
we're finding out who wrote the Quran.
Okay.
Because you said who wrote the Bible, right? You're saying the Bible wasn't written by...
Is he with you or is he with me? The guy in the blue shirt.
He was talking, yeah.
Is he with you or with me?
I don't know.
Do you know him?
No.
You don't know him?
I mean, I just seen him here before, yeah.
So we can ask him what we were just speaking about.
No. Okay, you
Before
just made a claim. Look.
Come.
No.
Come. No. Don't be on camera. I just want to ask you one thing and let it be clear. Don't run. No. Don't be on camera. What was we just talking about?
Authentication of like the Quran and the Bible.
And the Bible. Okay. So I mentioned. I'm just laying this. I haven't even discussed anything yet. We're just showing people what we were just talking about off camera. So I mentioned the I am statements in John, and I mentioned the Gospel of John, and you said with regards to John that we have a chain of transmission of John, and that we can actually the early church fathers, they demonstrated that John wrote John. Because this is my question to you: how did John wrote John? And you said one of the early church fathers said that it was John that wrote it, and I asked you who. You didn't know the name, but it was Irenaeus of I think it was 180. Irenaeus.
I don't remember exactly because this is in Christianity. It's not, the narration and everything is very important to Islam.
Yeah, but it's not important to Christianity.
It's not important to Christianity because we know where it comes from, and it's not like, oh, did he say that or did that one say that? We don't have that issue.
You see.
Okay, we're not going to talk over each other.
You just spoke up. You just cut me. I haven't made my claim yet.
So let's do this. You make your claim first.
Yeah.
I'll give you the time to speak. We'll both have 2 or 3 minutes to speak. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can somebody clock us for the time? One of these guys can...
I'm reasonable. We can... you don't have to stick to the...
It seems like you are. So I like speaking to you.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. So, I just want it to be timed because I hate it if I spoke over you. It would not be...
Speak over me is fine.
If I speak over you and you speak over me, it wouldn't be a good thing.
That's fine.
JC, can we get somebody to keep time? But do you want 2 or 3 minutes?
I can time
Whatever.
Okay. We're going to time it for 2 minutes each.
Fine.
All right, thank you.
So
he's going to keep time, he says.
Yeah.
Your Muslim brother will keep time.
Inshallah.
All right. So once he starts the time, can you start the time for him, please, so we can get this going? 2 minutes each. All right, go ahead.
So for me, I don't do timed stuff, but I'm doing it for your sake. No problem.
We can do 3 minutes if you need more.
It's not about that at all. It's just I'm not used to these time discussions, but it's no problem. So what I mentioned to you earlier was about the Gospel of John. In John, we have the great I am statements. Before Abraham was I am the Father are one.
Wait. You are going from one place to another. What is the topic that we're talking about? What is the topic? Can we?
You're cutting me now.
Okay, let's stop the clock, please. Okay, let's say here. Okay, here. What is your agenda of this conversation?
So where's the guy? This guy here.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know his name?
No, I don't. I just met him today.
You just met him today?
Yeah.
And the other guy, you met him today?
Yeah, I've seen him here before, but I
don't know his name.
Him.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, he was.
I just know they're Christian. That's all.
That's fine. So he was discussing with one of my other brothers who's not here now.
Okay.
And then he was asking about the categorization between authentic narrations, Sahih Hadith, and Da'if Hadith. Okay. So I didn't know the full details of what they were saying, but I listened to a little bit and I said, okay, I'm just going to clarify one thing about authentic narrations. So he was satisfied with the answer, and that was it. That was the end of it. I then asked him, can I ask you now about your mode of transmission in Christianity?
Okay.
And I'm sure I remember you being there at that time. So I then asked, for example, John, before Abraham was I am. We find a statement in John, before Abraham was I am. How do we know that John wrote John? And I was speaking to the gentleman in the blue polo shirt, and I was speaking to him, both of these two.
Yeah.
And then I said, do we know that John wrote John? And then you jumped in and said, yes, we know that John wrote John.
Yeah.
And I said, how do we know that John wrote John? Mm-hmm. You said he's the beloved disciple. Yeah. I asked, how do you know that he's the beloved disciple, firstly? And secondly, with the end of John 21, who's speaking there? Where it says, and just for the record, if you don't mind,
yeah,
you should have started a long time ago.
No, now you can start it
Yeah.
because
Recap. This is recap what I'm doing.
okay, we're just recapping
Yeah.
what he's saying, and then he's going to get this 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But we're going to have a specific topic because I'm going to ask you questions about Quran. Is that okay?
We discussed the Quran initially. We discussed it before I
No,
became.
but I wasn't there.
Okay, but I'm asking my
Look,
question.
You're going to ask me question, but I'm going to ask you question.
Yeah,
if you answer my question, I'll answer your question. Is that okay?
So look, you know the Quran and the Bible, they're two different books, of course, yeah? So if we're discussing one thing in detail, okay,
No. It's not one thing in detail. It works like this.
you made the claim that John wrote John.
I made the claim that we have I gave you the chain of narration.
You don't answer John wrote John because the Quran X, Y, and Z. That's not how you, that's not, if you're talking about this, a specific subject, you made the claim to me. I was discussing with these guys freely. You made the claim to me, yes, we know John wrote John. I was like, okay, how do you know John wrote John? Now you're saying...
And I gave you the answer, right?
What did you say?
I say that we have the early church fathers, they had this question asked before, and they did answer it at that time with the...
And I'm questioning that. That's the point.
Okay.
Now, you don't answer John wrote John by saying, well, in the Quran...
But that's the second question. First we get to one question. No. It's a back and forth.
Look.
Because the thing is this. The thing is this.
I came in here, they asked me a question, I clarified my answer, I spoke at length, I answered all their objections to both of these two guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
So are you afraid of answering questions about Islam?
Are you afraid? You're afraid.
No, I'm not. I answer.
I'm saying I'm questioning your answer.
No, the thing is, you're having a double standard. The thing is, if I ask you the same question, who wrote the Quran?
It's not.
You don't know who wrote the Quran.
It's not that at all. It's not that
Do
at
you
all.
know who wrote the Quran?
Do you agree that this is a different subject?
No, it's the same.
Do you agree? Do you agree?
Listen, you can.
Hang on. Do you agree? Do you agree it's a different subject?
No. I said to you,
How?
I said to you,
What has
I
the
want to have a
Quran-
conversation. I don't want to have a monologue because you're saying, I want to ask you a question, but you cannot ask me a question.
What has the Quran?
That's not right.
What has
you
the
have
Quran?
a double standard,
What
sir.
has? No, it's not.
Sir, you cannot ask me a question, and if I ask you a question, say, no, you can't ask me a question.
That's a whole different subject.
No. It's
Okay.
the same subject.
Anyway,
because if you
what
say
I'm
this
saying-
book, I don't have reliability.
What I'm saying-
of this book.
what
And
I'm
I say,
saying-
what's the reliability of your book?
Yeah. You can question that.
And you should answer that.
You can question that, and we can discuss that. That's not a problem. But in a discussion on John writing John, okay, when, for example, these academic non-Muslim scholars, when they discuss it, do they bring in the Quran? Do they say, well,
I'm not talking about all that. I'm not talking about all those people.
Because what I don't want to do is enter discussion and you start machine gunning, throwing everything.
No.
The question was simple. No. Listen to me.
That's
Listen to me.
the way you don't
Listen
want me to machine gun. I don't want you to machine gun
My
me
friend,
with
my
this
friend,
question
my friend.
and say,
I spoke
answer
to
this
3 of
question.
you.
I said I answered you.
I spoke to
now
3
I
of
have
you.
a question for you.
I spoke to 3 of you.
I'm just gonna keep asking my question.
Listen, I spoke to 3 of you at the same time.
No, you didn't. You were talking to these guys. They didn't have the. He called me. He said, "Can you come over here?"
Who?
The guy in the blue one. That one.
Okay,
The
so
young
I
one.
was speaking to him. I was speaking to the older one. Hang on, the older one over there,
Okay.
and you as well
No,
at the same time.
I haven't even spoken to you
No.
I just answered some questions that you were asking.
Listen. You butted into the conversation then. If you want to
No.
put it that way.
I was invited into the conversation with my
Listen.
Christian
If you don't want to answer, just say
I answered you.
Then let me
answered
question
you.
that.
No. You're coming with another question.
This is the thing.
No. The thing is this. You're saying
I said to you.
You asked me a question. I said, look,
take you
this
camera. Where's
this
you
was
camera?
written by John.
Take
He said,
this
who wrote this?
Who's it? I don't know which one is
You
which.
don't want to answer it because you don't want to answer who wrote the Quran. Do you know who wrote the Quran?
The Quran, as in the manuscripts?
Yes.
In terms of the manuscripts or in terms of the scribes of the Prophet?
The Quran you have right
Mu'adh
now.
ibn Jabal. Mu'adh ibn Jabal was one of the scribes of the Prophet. So we know.
Do you have his Quran?
We have chain of transmission.
Sir.
Listen. Again.
Hold on.
Take these, because this is
Oh,
ridiculous.
so okay, that's good. Listen to me. You said you haven't heard it. No. I said, listen, who was the one who compiled the Quran? Who was it? First one. No. Before
First one.
Yeah.
So there was different compilations. Aisha had her own compilation. I don't have
Abu Bakr had a compilation. Okay, was that the first one? You were saying this book, I have a question about the authenticity. Your book, you don't even know who was the first compilation.
Oh, is this yours? Okay, so
You don't know. Do you know that?
So Irenaeus, for example.
Oh, no. We're talking about. Do you understand that?
Wait.
This is Islam.
This is the point.
This is how he wants to debate. This is why you are debating those guys. This is what you do with this. Islam does that. We can ask Christians questions, but if you ask me the same, run away. And I have a right to do that because I'm going to say, well, you're not answering my. Your Quran, you say this book is not authenticated.
Okay.
Your Quran has no original manuscript.
Okay.
You don't have it.
All right. Can I speak? Okay. At first, you seemed like a reasonable guy, but clearly you was lying. Clearly you was being deceitful. You said I said to you, I'm trying to be reasonable. We can do 2 minutes if you want to do 2 minutes. Every time I spoke now, you've jumped and stopped because you're scared of this Irenaeus question, which we'll have to get back to. But because now you've done exactly what I said you shouldn't do in a discussion like this. If we're discussing one thing, you bring up a whole different subject and says, well, what about this? Go point for point. I'm not just going to accept. If I don't accept Bukhari said X, and therefore Bukhari, I have to blindly follow. Bukhari has to show his working. So when you said Irenaeus says X, Y, or Z, I don't just accept Irenaeus. I have the right to question it. Let alone you telling me Irenaeus said it, therefore you can't question. Of course I have the right to ask you. Now, because you've done this whole diversion tactic, yes you have, because you've done this whole diversion tactic of asking about Quranic manuscripts, again, imposing your belief upon us. Our religion is not based, our transmission of the Quran is not based upon manuscripts. That's the first mistake you've made. Now, your religion is based upon manuscripts from unknown authors that you have to dust up.
Timing this?
No. If you're not being patient, you can go. It's fine. So all you've done is just divert now. I want to talk about one subject. We want to talk about the Quran. So in terms of the first one, Abu Bakr had a Quran that was then passed down to Aisha, no doubt. Ali had a compilation. Many of the Sahaba had compilations. If you're asking of the first one, it's very hard to tell because they're all in the Prophet's lifetime. Okay. Now, in terms of manuscript, the Prophet's lifetime, companions wrote down their. No,
I'm talking about compilation, not write down.
In terms, every Ibn Abbas, Ibn Mas'ud, they all had their own compilation of the Quran. It was under Uthman that it was unified under one. Okay. Now, this has nothing to do with Irenaeus saying that John wrote John. The only reason you've done that is because you didn't know what you were talking about.
Okay, who wrote Surah Al-Baqarah?
Again,
who wrote Surah Al-Baqarah?
Are we gonna do like Bible and Quran?
Okay, the thing is this.
Don't say this. Don't say if you talk about Bible, I'm gonna talk about Quran. And then when I mention about my criticism about Irenaeus, and then I show you this is our belief of the Bible.
That's why I said
right now, you're not gonna talk about nothing about the Bible. You're only gonna divert and talk about the Quran, which was not what we were speaking about. So I guarantee all of these cameras are watching. You're not gonna say nothing about Irenaeus and my rebuttal to it. Go on.
Okay, let me say something. You've had your say, right? So I can say now.
I'm waiting for you to talk about Irenaeus.
Okay, let me talk. I don't have to talk about what you want me to talk about. I know you want me to say something that
was the
you
whole
want
discussion.
me to hear.
That was the whole discussion.
I'm going to say what
That
I
was the
want
whole
to
discussion.
say about
That was the whole
response to what you've said.
Then do you know what? Do you know what happens? Just one thing. You know what happens if you do that? If you open up that kind of worms of moving from topic to topic, then that allows me.
You haven't even heard what I was going to say.
To me.
You haven't heard
every time I spoke.
You
done
quiet.
that. No. Just now you allowed me to speak. Okay. Prior to that, you was cutting me. You elevated the tone of this discussion, not me. Yeah.
I'm bringing it down.
So
right?
try and bring it down, please. Yeah, okay. The cameras are watching now. So. So before that, we was talking about Irenaeus, no problem. As soon as the cameras came, you started to jump. You became irate, and then you wanted to jump. So this is no.
That's fine. Now why are we going back and forth?
So what I want to say, if you do this thing where every time I question something, you say, well, what about this? What about that? What about that? Then when you're asking me now, imagine if I was to do the same thing.
If you stop, then I can respond.
Hang on, let me finish.
Let me know when you're finished.
I'll let you know, definitely, and I won't take too long. So what you just did now, I asked you a specific question. We had a discussion earlier with the other guys, and then I answered a specific question, and then you said, well, what about this? Now imagine now, when you ask me what about this, I ask you about something else now. How many topics are we going to go through without even understanding one? Now I guarantee you that when you speak, you're not going to address Irenaeus. You're just going to jump to the Quran. So go. You can speak now.
You finished?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I have no problem talking about the Bible. And I did that before, and I tried to explain to you, Christianity did not start when the Bible was written. Christianity started way before the Bible was. Okay? So our faith and our religion is not based on what narration, who, and this and that. Our faith is totally, even there was no Bible written, because of what Jesus did, and if you believe that, you'll be saved. That's our belief. So this whole thing about narration and who wrote this and what does it say this is because of your perspective, because your Quran has nobody who wrote down the Quran. You don't have Ali Abu Bakr's Quran, which was the first compilation. Why you don't have it? You don't have, not just you, I've asked a lot of Muslims here, nobody knows why you don't have it. Why do you not have the full Uthmanic Quran? Nobody knows where the copies of those Qurans were sent to the capitals of Islamic world, which was ruling those areas. There was no Jew or Christian who took it from them. They had it. Now they don't have it. And those were not written on paper like Bible was in the beginning. It was written on parchment, which lasts for centuries. So those things would not have been disappeared unless your people did it. So you don't have your Quran. You don't know who wrote it. Okay, you have people, you say, well, there were Sahaba. What was the name of who wrote the Baqarah ayat? How do we know he wrote all the ayats in there? There are so many discrepancies in your own narratives, in your own Islamic narrative. There are, I used to say this, now I forgot about this one. Okay. There are so many examples of that.
Let me know when you're done.
I will be done and then you will know. And like I let you speak. Now, in the Bible, like you say, how do we know? I said, listen, Christianity was your hadiths. Hadiths are the sayings of the Prophet. Those are written 200. We're not counting the time. He said, don't count the time. Hadiths were written 200 years after Muhammad. Hadiths, these are hadiths. The red letters in here are the Christian hadiths, which means what Jesus said. The sayings of Jesus are the hadiths of Jesus. These are in here.
Remember this point. This is a really good point.
These were written within 90 years of Jesus by the people who
wrap it up now. I'm not going to let you. I'm not going to let you waffle.
So I'm just addressing the same point. I'll let you speak for a long time.
No.
And now I have like hardly 2 minutes.
You just done 2 minutes.
No. Listen, how many minutes did you have?
Was it more?
Of course you had.
No, come on.
More than 2 minutes.
A long time.
If it was okay, just wrap it up.
And you kept interrupting him.
Wrap it up.
He's interrupting
And the
me.
topic was,
the
did John
VJ.
The topic is what is the reliability of your book, and I'm saying the reliability of this book. The reliability of this book.
Wrap it up now.
Okay, the reliability of this book is established from the beginning of Christianity, from the people who were there.
Okay.
So if you come across and say, well, we don't know this and that, this is like something
That's it. That's fine.
Okay,
I'm not going to let you.
But your Quran, now you're running away from your Quran and your Hadith. They were
Let me
written
finish.
very
I'll
long.
give you 2 minutes. You didn't wrap it up.
Okay, so
then.
you're gonna get 2 minutes? Are we doing 2 minutes?
Just wrap it up. Just wrap it up, please. Is there anything else you want to add?
The wrap. Okay, I'm gonna have my last say. We'll give you 30 seconds. Okay.
Yeah.
Bible was written by the people who were there, by the eyewitnesses. It has been attested by the eyewitnesses. You don't need a chain of narration when you have eyewitnesses.
All right, you're done.
Islam
Okay.
was not written by eyewitnesses,
All right, you're done now.
so you need a chain of narration.
Now you're taking liberties.
That's
liberties.
it.
Okay.
I have to say
that's
my
fine.
say.
That's fine.
What do you mean
Don't take liberties.
I have liberty.
Listen,
you don't have liberty.
That's fine.
In Islam. You don't have liberty. I have liberty.
Okay. Now you're attacking. Okay, that's fine.
No, I am, because you are attacking me.
Now you're attacking me.
You're saying you are taking liberties.
I said don't take liberties with the time. Meaning don't take liberties with the time.
Okay, with the time. Okay,
Yes.
fine. Are we doing 2 minutes then?
Listen, just let me speak, please. Yeah.
So you don't want to take 2 minutes?
Just let me speak.
Okay, fine, go
Okay. So notice now that you did not address anything at all to do with Irenaeus. Now we discussed these guys before. We had this discussion. You made the claim that John wrote John. I was speaking to someone else, and you butted in and said yes, John wrote John. Now you made the claim, not me. I didn't claim that. When I asked you to demonstrate it, you said yes, we can. The church fathers. I asked which church fathers. You didn't know the name. I said well, Irenaeus 180. You said yes, that's the one. So it was you that made the claim. So why are you saying now this claim is not important? Okay, you opened the Bible and you said that these are our narrations. These red letters, you opened a red letter Bible and you said these are the narrations found in the gospel. These are our hadith. The manuscripts that you have, I told you already, our religion is not based, our sources are not based upon manuscripts. Okay, we have chain of transmission and isnad and consensus at every time. when you mention these, and this is the irony, Imtiaz, my brother here, this is the irony. They have a problem with Bukhari. Most of their manuscripts that they use to revive their text come after after Bukhari, not after Jesus, after Bukhari. We often hear from Christians now that the most widely attested to manuscript document in history from manuscript tradition is the Bible. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of manuscripts. Okay, he's burning now. Now, what we say is that most of these manuscripts, 95% or 93%, I've done the maths itself, they come after Bukhari, but yet they attack Bukhari like they did earlier, and he did as well. They have a problem with Bukhari, who died a few centuries after Rasulullah sallallahu, but yet their manuscripts come after the Bukhari. So we go back to the original question: how do you transmit anything from Jesus? All the great I am statements where you claim that Jesus is God, before Abraham was I am the Father are one, I am the way, the truth, the life, all found in John. I showed him at the end of John, if you don't mind. The end of John, it mentions the end of John, again, just for the record, he never addressed it. This is the disciple which testifies of these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. My question to him earlier, which he clearly said he don't know, and I want him to say he doesn't know on camera. Who is the we, and who is his? We know that his testimony is true. This we here, they're speaking first person plural. They're giving us the transmission. Now, if this is the gospel with the highest Christology, the highest view of Jesus, yeah, how can they now not know who that we is? When we're getting that view of Jesus that shows that he's God, we're getting this through these unknown people. So he didn't address anything to do with how do we know that what Irenaeus says is true, that John wrote John. He never addressed anything. I'll give him another opportunity to address it, and I'll also ask him who is the we. Just for the record, he mentioned earlier that he doesn't know who the we is. I just want to see if he's consistent, and he's good enough to say that on camera he doesn't know who wrote this part here of we, as in the one who's transmitting to us. The second thing, because he mentioned the Quran, we have to deal with it. The only thing he can do, rather than address the answer, he has to say, well, what about the Quran? Okay, we have chains of transmission with biographies of scholars and transmitters from the companions. In fact, I've set in front of scholars, Sheikh Rabi, for example, 27 people in the chain. He shows his, I want to wrap up now, he shows his transmission, and it's not just Sheikh Rabi, many scholars, they have chains of transmission where they can show the name of the people in the isnad, but we don't even need that, that's for narrations. We have ijma, consensus. In the time of Uthman, why didn't they rebel against Uthman? Those who Uthman was killed, why did they not kill him for changing the Quran? They killed him for something else. Why? The easiest thing they could said, he corrupted the Quran. Nobody had that connection. And I'll wrap up there.
Are you done?
I don't know, what was that, 30 seconds over? A minute? No problem.
Okay, thank you. So
no problem.
It's all right. Okay, I did address, now let's address the we. He said, who was the we in the...
Is here missing.
Naam. Manuscripts. Barakallahu fiqh. Yeah. Naam.
I got many of them like that example.
Naam. Jazakallahu khair. Yeah.
Are you listening?
I'm listening now.
Okay, thank you. All right, you asked me who the we are.
Who's the we? And how do we know Irenaeus? These are my two main questions. Who's the we? And how do we know that Irenaeus, when he said John wrote John, how do we know he's correct? Where's his work in? Please.
Okay, so the we are the Christians. We are the Christians. About him is Jesus, that his testimony is true.
Wow.
Okay, that's what the answer is. Now, Irenaeus, I just told you that in Christianity, our faith is not, because our Bible is transmitted by eyewitnesses and the people who interviewed the Bible in the first generation, right? We don't need a long chain of narration because we're not writing those things 200-300 years after the fact. Okay, so we don't need what you have. Your Quran and your Hadith are dependent on narration because you don't have any eyewitnesses to any of those statements. So there are a lot of problems with those narrations that you're talking about. It's not, a lot of people don't even believe in all the Sahih Hadith. I talk to Muslims, when I show them Hadith, they say, oh, I don't believe in that Hadith. It's a Sahih Hadith, it's Sahih Muslim, it's Bukhari. No, I don't have to believe it. Oh, it's not the word of Allah, I only believe in Quran. How many times they dance around their Hadith? It's unbelievable, it's already on camera. if you guys are like picking up you don't have anything to. Once you look at your book, the questions that Muslims ask are because of the problems they have with their text. They think that those same problems can be applied to the Bible. It cannot, because the Bible does not work like this. The Quran does, because it wasn't written 300 years after the fact. It was written by the people, or the people who were interviewing the eyewitnesses. That's my answer. What's your other question? If I'm forgetting something, I want to cover it.
So the two ones it should have been three, but two ones I asked you. Who's the we?
I asked you that.
Okay, we're going to check that. And Irenaeus, when he says John wrote John, where did he get that from?
Okay, he's the church father. This is from the people that were there. So, so you're saying John had disciples. Polycarp, you said, is one of the disciples. There are others so they are the ones who were there to know if John is not correct, or if this is something not written by him, they can correct that.
Allahu Akbar.
Okay?
Yeah.
So because they're
Allahu Akbar. The same thing that he's gone. Sorry, I'm not going to cut.
Now,
Remember that point.
That point does not convert into like the same argument as the Muslims, because you don't have the eyewitnesses that did that. You have narration. Oh, someone that called this, and his father that, and that father, uncle said this, that Muhammad said this. Okay, we don't have that. And then some of them said, no, that's a weak hadith. No, that's not a reliable. And even if it's Sahih hadith, if it doesn't work with the Quran, then we don't accept it. Even if it has a chain I asked this question 10 times. If it has a chain of narration, is that a Sahih hadith? Well, maybe not. Because if it has a right chain of narration, but it doesn't work with the Quran's theology, then we don't consider it. That's how your religion works, and you think that that's how the Christianity doesn't work like that. We don't have these issues. You guys have these issues. That's my answer.
Okay. So notice again, he said something which is 4 things. 4 points. If you don't mind, can I borrow your Bible again? Yeah. He said on camera, and I'm shocked at this one. I'm very shocked at this. He said on camera that this is the disciple which testifies these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. He said the him here is Jesus.
Yes.
He actually on camera.
He
said,
yes.
Yeah. He said.
Your understanding is different than ours.
So who's the? Listen. This is the disciple. Is that Jesus? If he's saying that's Jesus,
that's a disciple.
This is the first ever.
That is John speaking to other Christians and telling them the testimony of Jesus is correct. That's all it's saying.
So now, this disciple here, who is it? Who is the disciple?
John.
Okay. Which testifies of these things and wrote these things. You said that was Jesus.
The testimony of Jesus.
No, he said that testify that his testimony, Jesus' testimony is true.
No.
Who believe in the testimony.
This is the disciple.
Okay, my friend.
No.
You're misunderstanding your interpretation of it.
No.
This
Don't
is
run.
not what
I'm
it's saying.
speaking now.
I'm speaking now. I've already
it's fine.
that.
It's on camera.
Okay,
You haven't answered nothing.
Him anymore because he's keep giving his interpretation of that and saying this is what it means.
There you go.
So you can take that as his interpretation.
If there's any Muslim cameras, I'll carry on.
I'm not responding.
No. You must do. You must do. You know you're wrong.
I'm not.
No Christian exegesis, as far as I'm aware, would ever say that the disciple who wrote these things and testified these things is Jesus. I'm speaking. No? Yeah. No, he just said it. He said it. He said it.
He's been saying it that John is the disciple.
Okay, fine. The thing that I mentioned earlier, before the camera, how do we know that John is the beloved disciple? He said someone else said it, so we believe it. The second thing is, who's the we?
Yeah, the we.
He said earlier off camera, we don't know who the we is.
Yeah, because
I'm speaking. So do you agree now? And he said earlier that the we is unknown. We don't know who the we is.
No, I said they were the Christians.
Yes.
That he's addressing.
The Christians.
Yes.
Is that your answer?
Yeah.
The Christians.
Yes,
Okay.
Which
Christians?
We don't know.
The Christians that he's addressing in the book.
Did Christians lie in the name of Jesus? Did some Christians lie in the name of Jesus?
I don't know. We're not going to that.
Wow.
Are you changing
Why?
the topic?
Because it goes back to the same topic about forgery. How do we understand forgery? For him, being Christian is enough. If a Christian says to you, jump off a cliff, you're going to land on a bouncy castle, that's enough. if a Christian
Are
says to
you
you,
not changing the topic?
not at all,
You
not at all,
sound
not
like
at
you
all,
are.
not at all.
He's going all
Not
over
at
the
all.
place. When I did
Not
that,
at
you
all.
just said,
The
"Oh,
reference
don't
show.
go all over the place."
No,
you do
no,
it.
because the we here, you don't know who it is.
Sorry, I told you who it is.
Who?
I said the we are the Christians that he's addressing,
And
and,
now you-
he's saying his testimony
Now,
is
now,
Jesus'
now this is the thing.
testimony.
When
Yes.
these people, when they attack Islam, they cannot attack Islam except by falling into the same criticism that they criticize the Muslims with. But yet, let me finish. Now,
You didn't address
let me
my
finish.
attack
Let
on
me
Islam
finish.
because you can't address
Let me
it.
finish.
You cannot address the attack that I did on Islam right now. I said to you,
He's
you have
cutting
a
my time.
problem because you
I was
have,
patient for him.
You don't have eyewitnesses.
I was patient for
you
him.
Didn't. You didn't
I was
come
patient
back
for him.
with that. No,
I
I'm just
was
letting-
patient for
pointing
him.
it out.
I was
Your
patient for him.
diplomacy here. what you're playing.
he said, let's tone it down. He said that we don't have what Muslims do. My uncle, this uncle. He just said Christians. This is the highest Christology, this gospel. But he said, well, Christians said it, so we accept it. But then when he said to the Muslims, oh, they take from their uncles. No, we don't take from our uncles and so and so. We take from the names of the people. He mentioned eyewitnesses.
I'm so glad we are on camera.
One of the conditions, of an authentic hadith is that is a hadith that has that is disconnected. Like the mursal, for example, is a category of weak narration. Where the sahabi, where the eyewitness is missing, that's a category of weak narration.
So why don't you address the point that why
I'm
Muslims
speaking.
say that
I'm
if it
speaking and I
doesn't
never
jive
cut
with
you.
the Quran-
I'm speaking and I never cut you. So then he says we have eyewitnesses. Okay, for us, an authentic narration has to come via sahabi, eyewitness. Okay, same with the Quran. The Quran recension that we have comes via Abu Bakr, from Ali, from Uthman, from many of the Sahaba. It's a joke. Yeah. The second thing now is that he said we have eyewitnesses, and I'm so glad he said it. Was Luke an eyewitness?
No,
No.
not all of them.
Was Mark an eyewitness?
No, I said we.
Was Mark an
Are you going to
eyewitness?
misquote me? I'm going to interrupt
I never
if
said-
you misquote
I never made
me.
a claim.
No, you
I never made a
misquoted
claim.
me.
You made
I
a
did
claim.
not say that. I said we have eyewitnesses and we have people who interviewed eyewitnesses.
Okay, like-
Luke said I interviewed the eyewitnesses
sounds
to
like-
give you the right account.
So if
he
Luke,
said that.
So now let's
He
look at
said
this
that.
example. He cut me. Now let's look at this example. He
No,
mentioned
if you're
Luke.
going to start
He mentioned
misquoting
Luke.
me all over the place, I'm going to have to come in and correct you.
Why did I not cut you? Even though
No,
you like.
I didn't misquote you.
I never
That's
cut
why.
you.
I don't do that.
I never cut you.
I'm not a Muslim.
I asked the
Muslims
question.
misquote Christians.
Ad hominem.
Christians don't misquote
This
Muslims.
guy's running away.
I don't have to
He's running away.
misquote
I don't
Muslims.
have to do ad hominem attacks to get away from the point. Now, what he said that we have eyewitnesses. Okay? I asked who these eyewitnesses. He said Christians. Number
I
one,
didn't. That's
Christians.
another lie. I said in here he's addressing Christians. I didn't say those Christians who had no input in that text or in that verse. They're just passive audience that he's addressing.
You're cutting me again.
And he's saying, "Oh, you're saying they're
You're
eyewitness."
cutting me
I'm
again.
not saying they're
And he's
eyewitness.
cutting me again.
I'm saying they're passive
Let's-
audience
So
that
for
he's
example,
addressing. Hello,
he-
sir. Please stop misquoting.
I never
Without
cut you.
lies, Islam
I
dies.
never- I-
It's proven on camera.
I never cut you.
Because of you.
I never cut you.
You're proving Islam
I never
is
cut
false.
you.
That's all.
That's-
Go ahead.
that's
Please,
a-
go
that's
ahead.
an ad hominem
You're doing
again.
a good job.
I never cut you.
You're doing a great job.
I never cut you. Okay. So then he mentions if Irenaeus, when we mentioned the issue of Irenaeus, who's one of the earliest people who died 180, who said, if Irenaeus was wrong, the Christians would have corrected him. But yet when Uthman, he compiled the Quran, the same thing that he said about Irenaeus, why didn't I say that about Uthman? Why did the people that killed Uthman was killed by the Khawarij. Why did they not accuse him of changing the Quran? Same problem. Okay? The second thing, when he says that, Luke, for example, at the beginning of Luke, let's read it. At the beginning of Luke, it says this.
Yes, we know what he says.
No, we don't.
Read it.
Let's hear it.
Let's read it.
Let's hear what Luke says.
Let's read it.
Okay.
I said he interviewed the eyewitnesses. That's what I said. Let's see
And
when
who,
Luke says that.
and who are these eyewitnesses?
Let's-
For as much as many have taken in hand to set forth in order a declaration of those things which are most likely believed among us, even as they delivered them unto us, which from the beginning were eyewitnesses, I agree it says that, and ministers of the word, it seemed good to me, also having had perfect understanding. Now, he's saying he got it from eyewitnesses. Who? Which eyewitnesses? Which eyewitnesses? If you said, you can't just say Christian said it. The person says to you, I'm an eyewitness. Imagine if I said to you, I'm an eyewitness of Jesus,
Can
you
I
just said you're
respond to it
lying.
now or should I wait till you're done? Can I respond to it now?
So what I've done, I'm gonna recap.
I can respond right now if you want.
I'm gonna recap, yeah. So the first thing, he never addressed the Irenaeus thing. The second thing, he said we have eyewitnesses. Name one eyewitness. If he goes to Mark, Mark's not an eyewitness. If he goes to Luke, Luke's not an eyewitness.
Matthew,
if he goes to
John are
Matthew,
eyewitnesses.
if he goes to Matthew, I will tell him that Matthew was written in Greek, and the original disciple Matthew, who was an Israelite tax collector, wouldn't have been proficient in Greek, the Greek of Matthew.
Yes,
so
he
this
would
is not
be.
this
Yes,
is not
he
the
would
one.
be. If he's
Because
educated,
no,
that's
because
the
a
lingua
tax,
franca.
because
He
a
would
tax,
be.
no,
All of them would
then
be
show your
proficient in
show your
Greek.
evidence, show your proof.
That's
How do
the
you
lingua
know? How
franca.
do you know
That's historical.
Matthew? How do you know Matthew was that proficient in Greek? That's your assumption. He has to be. That's the only way you can explain it. And then
So
the
you're
last of the
using
gospel,
a machine gun
and
with
then-
all the points you're making. It's a machine gun
It's
on
the
me.
same principle.
But if I do the same to you, stick with one point. You're going all over the place. He
Don't
was
shout.
this. He
Don't
was that.
shout.
Show me this. Show me that.
Don't shout.
10 different things you
Calm
have
down.
mentioned. No,
Calm
no, no.
down. This is in
gonna make a
response
point.
to his point.
This is what
We
you
have no
do.
eyewitnesses.
But if I do that,
Let
Muslims are,
it
oh,
all
look, he's
show.
doing that.
Let it all show.
But when
He
he's
wants to
doing
shout
it,
over.
Muslims are
He's
quiet.
saying that we have no eyewitnesses. When I rebutted it,
You have no.
This is
you,
his response.
you do the same.
So
This
that's
is
fine.
called Islamic
That's fine.
double standard.
That's fine.
I can do this.
And now-
and now I'm going to run away because
I'll
he's
let-
going to
I'll
answer
let you
all
have the
the
last
things
word.
that I've mentioned.
30 seconds, go on. I'm gonna go.
30
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah, you go.
No, how long will it take you to make
Listen,
the point?
listen.
He makes
You're
the
becoming
point in
irate.
5 minutes.
You-
He said you have 30 seconds to respond to my 5-minute machine gun points that
Yeah.
I've made
I'm-
all these
every
points.
point you're addressing,
So I'm going
I've
to
addressed.
run away.
Every
Run
point you
away.
mentioned.
It's better for you to run away before
That's fine.
before I completely humiliate you
That's
and
fine.
your prophet
That's fine.
and your religion.
That's fine.
As I do here
That's fine.
weekly.
That's fine.
I'm about to do that. This is your last chance
this-
to get out of here.
What it will do-
If you want to get out of here,
I'm
this is
not,
your
I'm
last
not
chance.
shouting in your face. I'm
No,
not
no, no,
shouting.
it's my
Listen,
time to
You're
speak.
coming across quite aggressive. You seem irate. I might have
I'm
touched
not
a nerve.
irate.
Calm down.
You're like taking.
Calm down.
No,
Calm
no,
down.
no. Are you gonna run away?
If I was to
I'm
shout,
not-
shout over
Are you running away?
I let you speak when it was your turn.
Are you running
You never
away?
let me speak when
Are
it's
you
my
running
turn.
away?
Listen,
you're
listen.
running away.
If you don't answer the question that I give, are you listening to me? Okay. When
You see how irate you get?
No.
When
no,
I
no, no,
I didn't even.
Calm
And you were
down.
taking off your mic
Calm down.
after you said,
Calm
"Oh, I've
down.
said
Calm
it."
down.
You have 30 seconds to
No,
respond to my
no.
whole speech that I just gave with all the
You know why?
points I
You know
made.
why?
You have 30 seconds.
You know why?
Or I'm leaving right
You know
now.
why? You know. Don't be scared of me, my friend. My friend.
Don't touch me.
My friend.
I'm talking to him.
Listen.
Don't-
Don't.
No, I'm not.
Don't be scared.
Your
Okay.
brother is pulling me.
So
Muslims
listen,
say, "I'll come and
when
get
the brother,
very physical
when
here."
the brother came to me with the 2 books and mentioned something, what did you say to me? Are you listening? So that's why I said to you, are you listening to me? Okay, you didn't like it. So that's all I did was to make sure you're listening to me. No. Yeah. So everything that I've mentioned here is in direct response to your claims. My initial claim was that you, how do you know Irenaeus? You claimed knew that John wrote John. How can you back that up? You made the claim, not me. Okay? You didn't do it in your first addressing to me. You haven't done it in your second one, and all you can do is shout over me. If you can't address that first point, then we're done. What's the point? I'm asking you questions, you're not answering them, and every time you speak, you just jump to something else. The first question that I asked you, answer that. Just the first question. I'm asking it again. Just answer the first question, please.
But I thought you guys were finishing. Can I say something?
No. I just want to hear this guy. Are you going to be sincere? Are you going to answer the thing? Are you going to be sincere and answer the thing?
I will if
Come
you
on,
be
man. I can't do this.
I'll
No,
be
I've been
patient
patient
with
with
you.
you. I've been patient
I'm
with
asking
you.
him. I'm asking
I've been
him.
patient with you.
Be
Irenaeus.
patient, be patient.
Please, Irenaeus.
Yeah, we will.
Irenaeus.
I will.
Irenaeus.
I said I
please.
will.
You're on
Yes,
camera.
I will. Go ahead.
My friend,
Go ahead,
my friend. I don't want to open up another can
I
of
want
worms.
to hear what he has to
Irenaeus.
say. I want to hear what he has
You
to
can
say.
speak. I'm waiting for you.
Answer your
I'm waiting
question.
for you now to just
I
answer
will
the question
answer
about
your
Irenaeus.
question. He's been with me. Okay,
That's
yeah,
fine. That's fine. Them two are going to. Wait for them to finish.
Go ahead.
My friend,
just
no.
wanna share something with you.
No. I want him to answer.
I want
You're
him
diverting
to
the
share.
conversation.
Why are you afraid of what he's going to share? I'm going to answer Irenaeus. Is that what you want?
Please,
I will
please,
do that
please.
after he's spoken.
Go on.
Okay,
You speak to him. You speak to him. Speak to him. I want you to. All I'm concerned about right now is the question that I've asked maybe 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, however long it was. Yes. So I'm asking him. He made the claim. I never made the claim. He made the claim. Please, my friend. It's been how many times have we been speaking? Please answer the initial claim I made. The first claim. Please. Please.
So Irenaeus was challenged by the people of his time about the authenticity of the Gospels.
Where does it say that?
I have read this in the history. What do you mean? Irenaeus is in history,
Yeah.
in the church history.
Where was Irenaeus?
I believe he was in Egypt, right? Alexandria?
Irenaeus of Alexandria. Was it Alexandria? Yeah.
Alexandria.
Okay. Who checked
Whoa,
it?
whoa. I'm not here for a pop-up question. You guys do this. You did the same thing again.
He's angry.
When I start answering your Irenaeus question, you start machine gunning me. Who was Irenaeus? Where was he living?
No.
Who said this?
Who checked it?
I am just
You
giving
just
you
said,
the response.
I have read.
At the
Okay,
time,
but
listen to me now.
let me-
Don't interrupt.
Don't shout at me like that. Don't shout at me. You're not my dad.
Then
Don't
don't
shout at me like
interrupt
that.
me. Don't
Listen,
interrupt
you
me.
interrupted.
Don't interrupt
Listen,
me.
my friend. I
Don't
was very
interrupt
patient
me.
with you. I let you interrupt me.
Are you
I
going
let-
to interrupt me?
Answer the question.
I am.
Done. I'm going to write down the name of those who questioned Irenaeus, please.
Okay, so
Let's write
the
this
people
down.
who of his time were questioning him about the authenticity of the gospel, and he did the research, and he gave all his evidence. It's in the church history. The evidence of who wrote which gospel is all in the history of the church history that records everything. How he got the names of the people and who were the people who transmitted it from who. So these things, he did it at this time to answer this question.
Who's the name? What name?
It's in the, okay, let me say it again.
Are you talking about which church history?
The church history that's written in there's a church history, there are books on church history.
Eusebius.
The church fathers history.
Eusebius.
When you look at those church histories,
talking about Eusebius?
and you look at his history, he gives the names of the people where he got the sources of his record. Now, if you're going to keep answering it, no, you keep interrupting. Let me answer I'm going to answer.
Yeah, please answer. Please. It's still blank. It's still.
Who what?
Can you see that?
Who what?
Can you see that?
Who what?
Can you see that?
So,
It's
my
still.
friend,
It's still
you're
blank.
so scared. Why are you so scared? My answer. You don't want to hear my answer? You don't want to answer? You don't want to
I'm
answer?
listening. I'm listening.
Okay, so he wrote it in the history. Go and read it. Irenaeus, he wrote it in his rebuttal to these people. I don't have his book right now to read you who are the people that he mentioned in there. However, the chain of narration, as if I use your vocabulary, was because we didn't need the chain of narration. We just have eyewitnesses. We have people who were following John, who were Polycarp, and all those people. They knew him, so they knew who wrote John. So we have ample evidence of our test. But when I say this is my answer. Irenaeus, you keep bringing Irenaeus, and I said, look, this is written in history. Who wrote what? You don't have anything. You have nothing. You have people. My uncle said that, and his uncle said this.
Christians.
Okay?
Christians.
That's
That's
Islam.
okay.
We don't have any
No,
eyewitnesses. Who wrote the
No, yeah,
Quran?
no, yeah, no,
Where
yeah.
is Abu Bakr's Quran? We don't have any.
I'll give.
You just run away.
No.
You just took a machine gun. Oh, Luke wasn't this. Oh, tell me who was Irenaeus? Who were the eyewitnesses? Who were this and that? My friend.
You become very irate.
No.
I'm calm.
I'm just
You're irate.
demonstrating to the people that's your modus operandi. That is how Muslims operate in the park,
Ad hominem.
everywhere.
Now you're just
Because
attacking me.
Yeah, I am talking to you. You did the same
No,
thing.
you're attacking me now. Saying this is how
I'm
you.
telling you,
guys.
this is how you do it. So tell me, who wrote the Quran? Who wrote the Quran? Who wrote Surah Al-Baqarah? Do you have it? Tell me now. Like you asked me, tell me Arias, he was asking me. I'm asking you.
Look,
tell me now, who wrote Surah Al-Baqarah?
The whole.
Give me the chain of narration of Surah Al-Baqarah. Give it to me.
The whole camera, everybody on camera
Who was
can see
the
now
witness? Who was the witness?
that he's not answered the question.
Of Jibreel. No, you're running away. You're running away. This is how Muslim is. You ask him who was the one who saw Jibreel.
I was looking for the name.
Where is the person who wrote the Surah Al-Baqarah down? When Muhammad was narrating Surah Al-Baqarah, who was the one who was writing it down? Give me his name.
I thought you was
Where
done.
is that narration?
I thought you was done. Anyway,
Okay.
so
Go ahead.
I just want to show.
You're not answering. If you're not answering, then what's the point? Why are you wasting time? If you're running away, just like every week Muslims do this, they in the end have to run away. Because your Islam is undefendable. You guys come up with stuff. You think you got something. You
Can
don't.
Can I speak?
Go ahead.
Okay, so let it show that my notes that I was gonna write down the name. Who are these people that checked Irenaeus? How do we know of this? Is blank. He said the church is blank. Everyone can see there. My notes are blank. I was waiting for the name. I was waiting for the incidents. I was waiting for any reference. He mentioned, I'm speaking. Don't speak when I'm speaking. He mentioned church history. He doesn't mention any name. What church history? I'm assuming he's referring to Eusebius. Eusebius is one of the main church historians. Yeah, he's got the ecclesiastical history of the church. Okay, so when he's
Go to
mentioned,
Irenaeus' history, you'll read it there.
has Irenaeus got his own book of history?
No. Read
No,
about
rather Irenaeus
you'll
is
see
quoted.
How he got to this.
I'm speaking.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
speaking.
you keep making.
I'm speaking,
addressing me.
and you're getting irate when
No, I'm not.
I don't even.
I'm just addressing it.
Let me speak. So, with Eusebius is the one that quotes Irenaeus in these previous ones. That's how we don't have like an original manuscript from Irenaeus. Okay, it's later historians that mention this. Funny he mentioned Eusebius, the church history. If I'm assuming, I'm going to make an assumption here that when he says about church history, he's saying about Eusebius' church history, because that's what covers Irenaeus and Papias and Polycarp and these people. Polycarp doesn't mention any quote from the Gospel of John. The discussion was the Christology that is found in John. Where do we get it from? Polycarp, which is said to be a hero of John, doesn't quote anywhere from John in any of the Gospel of John.
Where does he quote from?
He quotes from other passages in the Bible, from Paul's writings, but he doesn't quote from the Gospel of John. Now, if he's a hero of John, surely he would quote from the Gospel of John. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Now, Papias...
Did he contradict John?
Hang on.
You don't need his
But then you can't say that he's the transmitter.
I didn't say
the second
that.
one,
I didn't
the
say
second
that.
one,
I said he was an eyewitness.
the second one that Irenaeus,
I didn't say
the
that.
one that Irenaeus quotes to say that he heard from John was a man called Papias. Now, he mentioned church history, and I'm assuming he's talking about Eusebius. What does Eusebius say about Papias? He says that Papias gets things muddled up. That he conflates between John the Elder and John the Presbyter and John of Patmos. He doesn't know which John it is. Okay, so this is Eusebius, the source that he's mentioning.
Not mentioned. Did I say Eusebius?
I'm assuming.
I never did.
Fair point.
He's
Fair
just
point.
putting
Fair
words in my mouth.
point. Fair
Go on,
point.
please.
Fair point. Fair
Do
point.
it on camera.
Fair
Looks
point.
really
Fair
good for
point.
you. Really
Fair
good.
point. Fair
Looking
point.
good.
I
You're
did
looking
say. I'm assuming he's talking about Eusebius.
I did not say that.
If he's not talking about that, show me which other church father historian from that has a church history is talking about Irenaeus.
I will answer
okay,
that
that's fine.
once you answer my question.
Hang on.
Now,
I'm speaking.
This is what you
I'm
did.
Speaking.
I
I'm
said
speaking.
you will not answer my
I'm
questions
speaking.
because Muslims run
I'm
away
speaking.
from my questions. They
My
just
friend,
keep
my
no,
friend,
answer
I
this.
think-
Answer this. Now answer this. I won't answer anything.
I think people run away from you because you're just
you have
shouting over
nothing.
them.
You have nothing to answer
That's
about
fine.
your Quran,
Let-
about your narration.
what
you
I
haven't
want-
said anything
what I want-
about the things that I brought up about your hadith.
What I want is the sincere Christians to come out and condemn this man.
Okay, I want the Muslims to come out and show me how many Muslims
not all
believe in
Christians
all the
are like
hadith.
this.
How many
Christians
Muslims
can't all be
believe?
like this.
I
Christians
quote
cannot all be
Sahih
like this.
hadith all the time
Okay?
to Muslims. I say this is in
There's
Bukhari.
Christian scholars.
Aisha says
There's
in
Christian.
Bukhari that I
There's
was
sincere
6 years
Christian
old
scholars that are
when
out
he
there.
married me. I was
They
9
behave
years old.
better than this.
This is in Sahih Bukhari.
You can have this
A lot
discussion
of Muslims say no,
without
I don't
shouting
believe
over.
that. It's a weak narration.
That's all he can do is shout over.
No,
He says Muslims run away from him.
Address it. Okay.
Why
Are you going to address it? Why don't you address it? Are you afraid of your religion?
Why are you so irate? You haven't. No.
You don't want to address it.
Listen, if I can't
You don't
finish a
want to address
sentence
it.
without you
So
speaking,
just say I lost. I
that's
can't
it.
address your questions because I cannot. Islam is undefendable. Say it.
Listen, my friend.
Because you can't defend it.
There's no shame.
There is no shame in saying Muslims don't believe in Sahih Hadith. If the Sahih Hadith does not
I feel sorry for his
copy the
family.
Quran or does not
How-
affirm the Quran,
do you talk like
that
this?
Sahih and
Do you
narration
talk
does
like this
not
with
matter.
everybody?
The narration
Imagine
that you
working
said,
with a person like this.
Look at this.
Imagine
now he's
living
going
with a
for
person like this.
personal attack because he has no. This is Islam. When you
How
cannot
can you
address
talk?
the
How can you
question,
talk?
attack the person.
How can
Just
you talk?
attack me because you can't attack the question.
He attacked me many times earlier.
You can't address
I
the
said one
questions.
thing back to him, and now he's the victim again.
No. I am the victim.
Muslims are this,
because
Muslims
you
are that.
haven't addressed
When are
a
you guys
single
gonna wrap
question.
up?
When are you
That's
going to
fine.
answer?
I think we're done.
One question.
I think we're done.
I think
One
you're done.
I think we're done.
Yeah, I think you're done.
I think we're done. Long time ago.
That every Muslim believes in all the hadiths. Why is it that the Muslims don't believe in all the
Off
hadiths?
camera, I want to say
Which one is which?
Sorry, bro, you cannot answer it. I'm sorry. You're finished. All right, then I'm gonna finish it on my camera.
I'm sorry to keep taking them off, but this guy's a headache. This guy's a headache. Firstly, I just want to say that you do. That this cannot be. This guy does not represent Christianity at all. Yeah. Firstly, I want to say that from the get-go, because these questions.
was too exposing.
Yeah. So there's many Christians that are well versed in what we're talking about, and they're able to address these things and have these conversations and go to some depth. Okay. Unfortunately, this guy, you can see he's got an agenda. He just wants to kind of shout over people and speak. The idea about chain of transmission, he said Christians were the ones that gave it to them. That doesn't help us. With these, again, imagine if we took a hadith and we say this hadith has been narrated by Muslims, and that's our only criteria, is that it was narrated by Muslims. This is not acceptable. The Muslims have to show their chain of narration, their transmission. We mentioned there was 5 before this started recording. We mentioned there were 5 conditions for authentic hadith. One of them is precision. One of them is upright in character, connection of chain, not contradiction that which is stronger than it, not contradicting that which is stronger than it, and other conditions as well. Yeah. So and no defect, no ilal. Yeah, of course. Exactly. No hidden defect. Exactly. So we mentioned this, and we said this is what we would need in order for someone to say this hadith is sahih, and we can accept this hadith. That's the first part. In terms of the fiqh and the understanding of the hadith, again, there's still a layer of scholarship that we have to go through. How do we understand these things? Ilm al-riwaya wa ilm al-diraya. There's still that kind of level. Now, for him, he can attack us and say, you take from your uncles and this one, your granddads or whatever. No, we don't. We wouldn't accept that. The hadith would be da'if, if someone is majhul al-hal, unknown person, we cannot accept it.
Okay, don't lie.
I know he's shouting again.
I want to see you.
Okay. So this is the thing. So again, he mentioned we have eyewitnesses. Matthew's not an eyewitness. The one who wrote this, there's an assumption they have that the author of Matthew is Matthew, the author of John is John, the author of Luke is Luke, the author of Mark is Mark. These are assumptions. We need to test them first. Matthew is written in highly polished Koine Greek, as many non-Muslim scholars would attest to. That this is like a high level of Greek language. So Matthew was a tax collector. Yes, he would have known some Greek. Yes, he would have known some of the language of the Romans that he's collecting taxes for, but would he be highly polished? No, it doesn't necessitate that. If he was, demonstrate it. That's an assumption, okay? So Matthew, we can assume he's not an eyewitness. It's unlikely that he's an eyewitness, okay? And the Matthew that we have was not written in Hebrew. We know the early church fathers, they mentioned, and they made mention of a Matthew the disciple who wrote a gospel in Hebrew, known as the Gospel to the Hebrews. Okay, which is coincidental as well, because we know that Waraqah bin Nawfal in Mecca, he would write the gospel in Hebrew. So it wasn't a Greek gospel. The layer before these ones that we have now, these gospels that we have, it was the original teachings of Jesus. What was Jesus' primary audience? They were Hebrew speaking, Aramaic speaking, according to some opinions. So we want to know that layer before Greek, because we know as well, that the translator is from the Isnad. So if you don't know the translator is transmitting information to you, and he's also trying his best to put it from one language to another. He is from the chain of transmission. The translator is from the Isnad. So if you don't know who wrote the Greek, then how can you say that we have eyewitnesses and you have your uncles and your aunties that you're taking from?
You know that point you mentioned about John? Can you explain that for me?
Which one?
You mentioned that book of John that you told him to read.
At the end. So at the end of John, it says, now this is the disciple who wrote these things. I'm paraphrasing, but you can check it, John 21. This is the disciple who wrote these things, and we testify that his testimony is true. So what is talking, somebody, i.e. the author, is speaking in the first person plural. So we. So he's saying we testify, we bear witness that what he has said is true. So okay, that sounds good. But who's the we? If someone comes now and says, I've got a blank manuscript here, and it says, we testify that John said that Jesus said X, Y, and Z. We're not gonna. How can you accept it? Because you don't know who is the we, who is giving you the transmission. So this is why, and why John is so important, is because John has the highest Christology. Mark has a lower Christology, very human. This is the earliest gospel. Jesus is very human. Matthew and Luke is kind of elevated, but it's still synoptic. It's still in the same view. John is highly kind of spiced up, a highly exalted view of Jesus. If you look in the previous, the synoptic gospels, Mark, Matthew and Luke, you'll see that Jesus, if you look, when was he become Son of God? Was it on the day of the baptism? Was it when he was crucified? Look at John. John, he was there before Abraham was I am. He's always been there. So the elevation of Jesus's status is primarily in John. Outside the churches, when you want to see the big quotes, is I am the way, the truth, and the life. When you ask a Christian, where does it say that Jesus said he was God? Before Abraham was I am the way and the truth, the life. All the great I am statements, it's well known. Okay, so that's the source of the high Christology. Not to say that Mark is a Muslim gospel or Matthew, but we can see an elevation. The later on you go, the higher the Christology. The further back you go, the lower the Christology. Now, if you go before Mark, which is before all of the Gospels, Mark is the first Gospel written that they have. If you go before that, what we would see is that you find a Jesus that is exactly the same as the Jesus of the Quran. And this is what historians are saying. And there's a book called James and the Church, or James the Brother of Jesus, by Jeffrey Butts. An amazing book. He highlights this point. He's from, I think it's from Michigan, University of Michigan. He highlights this point, and he shows that the key to understanding the true Jesus from a historical point of view is James. And when you see that James, who prayed in the temple, who told them to worship the God of Israel, who viewed, the only difference he differed with the Jews is viewing that Jesus was the Messiah. This is how he differed with the Jews. Now this James and this historical Jesus, Jeffrey Butts mentions that it lines up exactly with the Muslim Jesus. And we can see this. We can see that when we understand these things and we take away the layers that's been added on from these unknown scribes and unknown sources, you can see that a pure Islamic Jesus who prayed to God. They can even see it in their own text. There's still remnants in there for them to see the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Apart from the word Father, which we have some issues later on now with Islam, the word Father, there's some issues with that. Apart from that, if you understand that Jesus is telling the disciples to pray to his Lord, he's telling them to pray to the Father. This is they still have it in John as well. This is true life, that they may know you, the only true Father. So the clear and ambiguous statements are there to show that Jesus prayed to God. He has a God. He taught others to pray to God. He told others to submit and humble themselves to this God, and that you would have faith if you humble. Whoever humbles himself will be made highest, and whoever makes himself high will be humbled. So this is what the teaching of Jesus was. Okay. Now we have these people, and they just you can see. Alhamdulillah. So again, this is why when the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, not only was he prophesied in the scripture, he's expected. Why would he expect? Why do we say it's expected? Because if their book has been corrupted, unknown authors, manuscripts differing with each other, people just fabricate in the name of Jesus. We have these things. It's only right that God would send a prophet afterwards to clarify. So not only is he prophesied in their Bible many times, he's also expected. There needs to be another prophet because this scripture is corrupted. So Allah has sent his last prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to clarify for these things. Just to mention some of the prophecies that are maybe not as well known. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the companions came to him and they said, we know how to send salam upon you, but how do we send salat upon you? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught them what we say in the tashahhud. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Then he also said, Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. We find in Genesis, in chapter 12, it says a promise to Abraham. We know the promise to Ismail, that Allah will make him a great nation. What the Christians, all of them are aware of the promise to Isaac, and the Jews are aware of the promise to Isaac. They highlight on that one, that the covenant will be with him. There's also but we believe the covenant was taken. But there's also a covenant and a blessing for Ibrahim alayhi salam, and that is, I will bless those who bless you. So daily, every day, the Muslims, and it says, I will bless those who bless you, and your name will be used as a blessing. Okay? Never in history do we have as many people today sending blessing upon Ibrahim and using his name to send blessing on others like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as we do today with the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ibn al-Arabi, he mentions in Ahkam al-Quran, his book on Quran, he mentions regarding the tafsir of the ayah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi. He mentions in the tafsir of that this affirmation, this taslim that we do, this tashahhud that we do, it's a reaffirmation of the original blessing upon Ibrahim. So we bless Ibrahim daily, alayhi salam. We say this daily. okay? And we do it in our tashahhud. And we use his name as a blessing. But this has never happened with anybody other than the advent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Allah mentioned that he would do that. He would make his name a blessing. Why? Because Ibrahim left his land. He made hijrah from the land of the mushrikeen. When you make hijrah from somebody, your name becomes unknown. Your lineage becomes unknown. But and your wealth becomes diminished. But what did Allah do? And Allah has promised this for others that make hijrah, that Allah has blessed him, increased him in wealth. Allah increased Ibrahim in wealth. Allah increased his name. So much so that we say that we are upon the millah of Ibrahim. It's not anybody else, the millah of Ibrahim specifically. And then he also expanded his lineage. So alhamdulillah, that's just one prophecy. Alhamdulillah, just thought I'd get it out there. Naam akhi.
You said before that about we can't call we have issue to call Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Father.
Oh yeah, okay. So from Islam, from the teachings of Islam, is that when we call Allah a name or an attribute, that there are certain principles that we have to take into consideration with regards to that. We don't call Allah by any name that he hasn't called himself. I.e. in the Quran or in the Sunnah of his Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. It's possible that in a different Sharia that he has different names that he's kept with himself or revealed to a different prophet at a different time. That's why I have the famous dua of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he asks, "Oh Allah, I ask you by every name that you have given yourself or taught any one of the creation." So there are other names that Allah, and there are all that you have kept a name by yourself in the unseen. So we don't say that Father was not a name of Allah, but we don't say it was a name of Allah. Now, the problem that comes with the word Father is the connotations that we see with the Christians. With Father comes Son, and this is now the Trinity, the whole idea of the Son being part of the Father, the same attributes, and so on and so forth. This whole confusion that we see, this is the thing that makes people shout and scream. This thing's so confusing. You have no clear answer. You have to shout and scream. So this is the conclusion of having a a belief that is confusing. In their scripture, it says God is not the author of confusion. And when we mention this to them, they become irate, and you can see what's happening. We try to be reasonable. Obviously, we're going to be firm as well sometimes. We try to be reasonable. We try to understand, but there's a certain limit you got to take. I could have walked away there. He would have ran after me and said, "Oh, you ran away." You got to understand, if a man doesn't want to speak to you because you're being like that, fair enough. Never answered it. And then what's crazy, Ibn Taymiyyah mentions this, that whenever they attack Islam, they fall into the same thing. He attacked Islam for taking from uncles and aunties and unknowns. When I asked him who, he said Christians. When I asked him who, he said, the Christians said it, and it's all in there, no reference. We mention names. For example, in Muwatta of Imam Malik, before Bukhari, he said Bukhari came later, 200. The Muwatta of Imam Malik took from Nafi took from Ibn Umar took from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly. We have SNE, don't even try it with us when it comes to this. We boast about this. Ibn Hibban mentioned that Allah Azza wa Jal, he specified this religion with three things that he hasn't specified with any other religion: knowledge of the Arabic language, knowledge of the lineage, and knowledge of the isnad. And this is we can see it today. When we have these discussions, he becomes angry when we ask him for his isnad, and he said we don't even need isnad. Allahu Akbar. Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakallahu khair, MC. He was helping me to. I couldn't speak to him. It's crazy. But I don't know who these belong to, but barakallahu fikum.
Which one? This one? Give me this one, give me this one.